Ever since I was a young boy, especially while sitting or walking along the South Shore sands of Long Island with my mother, I loved to ask questions. I especially like to ask what-if questions about people. As I grew older, the questions became more informed and often revolved around our mutual love of history. For example, what if Christopher Columbus had never sailed from Spain? What if the late summer fog of 1776 had quickly lifted over Brooklyn and George Washington and his troops were captured by the British? What if the Confederacy prevailed against the Union Army? What if President Kennedy survived the assassin's bullet, or President Reagan had not? There's no way my immature mind could have realized it, but at the core of my what-if questions was an ageless and fundamental curiosity. Do our choices in life really matter? Or is God behind the curtain pulling all the strings? Or, put more bluntly, is it God or is it man who is in the middle of all things? Or could it be that, yes, God is in charge, but as His servants, our actions do matter and have consequences? After all, it was Solomon who declared that, "All the days planned for me were written in your book before I was 1 day old." Psalms 139:16. Scientists and theologians call this an antinomy, an apparent contradiction. How could it be that God is sovereign, and yet man still has free will to make decisions that matter? What the secularists have called fate, the belief that things randomly come to be, people of faith have called providence or destiny, a belief that a supernatural intercessor is overseeing life on earth. For example, reflecting on the miraculous birth of America in 1776, it was Virginia statesman John Page who wrote to Thomas Jefferson saying, "We know the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong. Do you not think an angel rides in the whirlwind and directs this storm?" Providence and adoption. Since receiving the privilege of adopting our 3 sons, my wife Julie and I have allowed ourselves to ponder the what-ifs surrounding their lives and adoptions. What if their birth mothers had not chosen to courageously carry them to term? What if they had chosen someone else to adopt them? What if they had decided not to make an adoption plan at all? All of these questions, some admittedly haunting ones at that, led me to start pondering the what-ifs of other well-known adoptees. For example, what if John Hancock had become a pastor instead of a politician? What if Nelson Mandela's adoptive father didn't have deft leadership skills that rubbed off on his son? What if Steve Jobs had been adopted by a couple in Florida instead of one in Silicon Valley? Whenever I would look up their stories and try to learn more about the circumstances surrounding their respective adoptions, most of the information was limited to a single sentence or perhaps just a paragraph or two. But there had to be more. How could such an emotional, monumental, and transformational moment be reduced to a passing reference? Was their adoption a mere factual footnote in their lives, like their birth date or hometown? Or was it one of the driving forces behind the stories of their successes? In the following pages, I believe you'll see that every single one of the individuals profiled didn't succeed in spite of being adopted or intimately cared for by someone other than their biological parent. They rose to their level of accomplishment in no small part because of their adoption and relationship with their new parent or parents. In fact, their adoption didn't just change the course of their lives and the families who embraced and loved them. Instead, you'll see their adoption has changed and is changing the course of your life and mine. You'll also see, I hope, that adoption, like life itself, is a gritty and often imperfect process. It's nothing like you see in the movies, watch on television, or even read in a best-selling novel. Indeed, it's far more dramatic because the stories you're about to read are true and involve real people who made and are making a significant difference in the world. Each and every person featured in the following pages was chosen for greatness. In the end, you'll be reminded that every adoption puts every child on the verge of everything because, in the words of Henry David Thoreau, every child begins the world again.